It's not going. There it is. Welcome in to an early edition of the Building the Pride podcast. I am your host, Drew, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
How's it going, Drew? Yeah, I think in order to get through talking about this game, I need to have a drink.
Yeah, there you go.
It was that kind of a game.
It's a beer me kind of week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
yeah, it was a disappointing game. Not a ton of bright spots. Dr. D had a few comments in there. Follows up with, "Oh, hi, Drew and Mike.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of these that Dr. D's got in here." So we'll start with J-Mo is a bust. Prove me wrong. I know he needs time to gel like Okuda. LOL.
I can't prove you wrong, but I mean, what I would say is, you shouldn't judge any first contract player until they've been in the NFL for 3 years. That's when you should know who that guy is. Now, that's playing for 3 years. I mean, rookie, sophomore, junior seasons. And J-Mo's not going to have that. J-Mo, as we all know, missed his rookie year, or the overwhelming majority of it, and he was on a pitch count when he came back. And he got suspended for the first, 5 weeks this year?
It was supposed to be 6. It ended up being 4, I believe.
Okay. And so he's now on a pitch count when it comes to that. Well, okay. So there has not been much call for positivity, right? And I don't think that coming out of this game, there's any more call for positivity. What I will say is, he has speed that you can't teach. I mean, it's just really special. He has one very special trait, and he has played now 8 games of football, something like that. Yeah. So I don't know that I'm ready to say bust. I haven't seen a lot to make me think, ooh, we've got a real
the guy I was
treat
excited
here.
about.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much, So, well, I mean, so I understand that you're bummed out about him, but when you have speed, like Tyreek Hill has speed, yeah, you can do both. You can play in the NFL and try out for the Olympics. So, I mean, if he wants to do that, fine. But there's no easy way to replace that, in my opinion. And the Lions are still 5-2. This was a demoralizing loss. There's no way around that. There's no excuse making for that, but they're fine. So it would have been, I'd like to win all the games. That would be great. But they're not going to. And
I would say that he's not a bust yet. It's too early. I usually say after a second year, a second season, going into the third, you're probably knowing what you're going to get, and that's kind of that player's prove it or lose it kind of year. But I will say disappointment. How many times have I said that, or have you heard that? Oh, they just need to get some more chemistry, Goff and him, and I'm like, dude, it's been a year and a half. Well,
I mean, he's not out there every practice with a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, he had OTAs this year, which he didn't the first year. So he's got an OTA in a preseason. He had the last 7 games or whatever of last year. He's got a couple this year. It's not a wide window of stuff, but come on, does it take a year? Does it take 18 months? Does it take 2 years to get chemistry? If so, then one or both of you guys are just probably not good enough at your jobs. So it is disappointing that the thing that he is supposed to be doing, he's not doing well. I'm not ready to call him a bust. I want to see how the rest of this year plays out. But at the end of this year, he better have turned stuff around, or I am going to be disappointed and starting to potentially use that bust word. Catches like your daughter. Does she
maybe
catch
she
well?
should play for
Because
the
he
Lions.
doesn't. Because he doesn't catch particularly well. He's dropped a lot. His stats this week were 6 targets, no receptions. Gibbs is a gadget player who can't block a thing, not worthy of a pick. He also disappointing to see.
So I've heard a lot of people online say that they're not using him correctly, and I just don't know that that's accurate. Like, you're going to have to hand him the ball some portion of the time now. David Montgomery obviously didn't play, this week, and I do think that he is so if we look at the running back tandem that the Lions had last year, you would give the ball to Williams more often than you gave the ball to Swift. And when Swift came in, you knew that it was more likely that they were going to throw. He probably wasn't going to pass protect, yada, yada, all those things. And, Gibbs is the new version of that. And, I don't know. I agree that I didn't think he was worth the 12th overall pick. But that was based solely on his position. So I have seen, like Jameson Williams, I have seen very little from Gibbs that makes me think he's going to be a guy, and
yeah, he's been disappointing as well.
I mean, it's just, I think he's a complimentary running back. I don't think that you can. Now, if you wanted to
be a guy that we were build our offense around.
Well,
he was going to be the gadget guy, special weapon. And right now he hasn't shown any of that. Right. At least not consistently. I will say one of the bright spots I thought for this past game, and there were very few, so it won't take very long to go over. I thought he actually looked really good in space. I was talking with my brother before this, and I'm like, dude, I need some bright spots. What were the things that you saw? And he mentioned Gibbs looking good in space, and that he got a little bit more involved in the passing game than he had been in the past. And I'm like, yeah, I see those. So I'd like to see more. I mean, that's why we drafted him at 12, was because he was supposed to be special and dynamic. But as Dr. Detroit says, and we've said kind of the whole time, 12 was too high for
just since
a running back in general, and specifically nothing shouted out he was that valuable. So
I do kind of want to point out, because I know where we're going next, and that's Jack Campbell. But
let's talk about Jack Campbell.
Well, let's hang on one second.
Okay.
So thus far, Brad Holmes has had 4 first-round draft picks. Penei Sewell is really good.
Yep.
End of list.
Aiden Hutchinson is really good.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I forgot about Aiden.
Yeah.
So he's had 5 first-round draft picks. So Aiden and Penei are really good, and they're top 10 picks. So
he said 4.
No, he has Penei, Aiden, J-Mo, Gibbs, and Campbell.
Oh, I keep forgetting J-Mo was we traded back up to get him. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, top 10 picks are kind of easy. But I will say, just for the 1,000th time, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, so if everybody gets upset with it, I apologize. Jalen Carter is not only in the top 10 in pressures generated in the NFL, he's also 5th in pass rush win rate, and has had no issues in Philadelphia thus far.
Did you say he's top 10? No.
You're
so. Right, but he is number 1.
So
he's the number 1 graded interior defensive lineman. Really? Not just top 10. He is Jalen Carter.
Sure, yeah, but Dr. Detroit says so was Davis the year before. Davis.
Carter was there, man. So was Davis.
Who? Davis who? David. So the year before was the
awkward blank audio here.
The year before was the Hutchinson draft
from Philly.
More words, Dr. D. What's Davis's first name? I need Davis's first name. Now I'm super curious.
But yeah, Jalen Carter. I mean, granted, like his number of defensive snaps. Oh shit! I thought I had it on the. There we go. Let me get that out of the way.
Yeah, he only
here I am, like, hey,
percent of the time.
Yeah, so he's only played 183 snaps, and I think he missed this last week. But he has been elite in those snaps.
Yep.
And
Jordan
for all
Davis.
people in the Rams groups that are complaining about Aaron Donald, for whatever reason, I've found a few of them that are complaining about Donald being washed up and not being an impact.
I'll take him.
I'm like, he's still the fourth highest graded interior defensive lineman, and he's got more snaps than any of those guys. Like by a long way.
Yeah.
Like there was one post that was talking about, well, you always see Aaron Donald on the sidelines. He's just a shell of the man he was. He's not effective. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. But like Jalen Carter is a guy we could have had.
Jordan Davis. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Detroit. Okay, Michael, let's talk about Jack Campbell. I've just not been impressed with Jack Campbell at all. End of evaluation.
Yeah.
He looks like a rookie. I mean, like I know that's a cop out, but like he just looks like a rookie. I mean, he doesn't. I don't think he knows. Yeah, no. I mean, he's like there were a couple of plays just in this game where I was like, he clearly got sucked up on play action. Like he's not taking a good angle on this approach, and and I was just like, these are probably things that like get ironed out with a full off season in under his belt or stuff. So made in Detroit.
Made in Detroit, yeah. Welcome. Detroit fans are fickle. Everybody's a bust if they don't hit the ground running. We always want to mimic others. Get this player. Philly did, Niners did. Pathetic, whiny fan base.
Awesome. That's what we're here for. So
that's not necessarily wrong though either. There's a lot of that. I mean, just sports fans in general are. What have you done for me lately? Like, what was last game? I don't care about the previous 5 games. I don't care about the previous year. There's a lot of fickleness in fandom.
So he makes a point about like hitting the ground running. So let's talk about that for a second. The whole chat is like preempting what we had planned.
I know that's all right though.
They know us pretty well. But so going into the draft, hey Zakwa, going into the draft this last April, I think it was relatively clear that Detroit had an opportunity to finish first in the North or make a play for the playoffs, right? So I've said on this podcast before, like running back should have like about the smallest learning curve coming out of college to the NFL of any position. There are a couple that have equally small learning curves, like pass rushing defensive ends, tackles to some respect. And that's debatable as to which one has the smallest curve, right? So I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just saying that running back is one of the smaller learning curves. So you would expect a running back to come in and being able to produce pretty early on. Further away, like when we had Dr. Eric Eager on early in the show's history, we talked about the further a defensive player gets away from the ball, the more reactive they have to come, the higher the learning curve, the higher the probability that they have to be elite at their position in order to make, a similar impact. That type of thing. So like Campbell as a linebacker in a linebacker room that Anzalone is clearly the number one. And you could see guys like Barnes and Rodrigo still get snaps because of like Rodrigo had a good rookie season. Barnes made strides in the off season and had a lot of good hype coming in behind him, that Campbell wasn't going to play incredibly high snap counts right off the bat. So I do think that he's solidly in his learning curve. So who are we talking about here being the worst player? Campbell or Jamo?
Jamo.
Yeah, I'm not defending him. He's just not good right now.
Marvin Jones is the 113th out of 113th graded player. JMO did not make the list. So right. My guess is he hasn't hit a snap minimum. So, but I don't know if Jones got there, he's got to have fewer snaps than JMO. So I'm not sure if there's some sort of score minimum. I'm not really sure.
I don't know that Made in Detroit is a Lions fan. He might be a different fan base guy. That's fine. But I just think that they're rookies. Now, could you have drafted other players that maybe had equally small learning curves? Yeah, probably. That doesn't, but there's no evidence to suggest that they would have worked out in Detroit any more than the current guys they drafted.
Yeah.
But what we're basically talking about was that we had said prior to the draft, like, this is the direction we would have gone, and the Lions went and obviously in a different direction. So, and if it works out, they look like geniuses. And if it doesn't work out, you don't.
Yeah.
So right now it's not good. So
yeah. Well, I mean, we're 5-2. Yesterday was not good. Yesterday was abysmal. Yesterday, 38-6. Yesterday was a burn the tape day game. You're not going to review that tape and learn anything positive. You just burn the tape and move on. There's, like I said, there were a couple bright spots. Gibbs being pretty decent in space the few times that he had it. St. Brown is our most consistent, best player on offense. And, end of sentence. Like, I don't think that's debatable at this point. But like a couple spots, we talked on my drive home for work as well. You had another bright spot that we can kind of talk about.
Yeah, I thought that the bright spot from this game, because after the first half, I basically watched the second half trying to find something that's like, okay, like, this is something to build on. This is a foundation. This is a change they made. And, they're adapting, whatever. I just thought Khalif Raymond played really well and really hard all game. I felt bad for him. Muhammad Ibrahim sounds like he dislocated his hip. And
he had first snap.
Yeah, he had to stay in Baltimore overnight to have surgery and stay for observation, and is going to get released and come back to Detroit at some point here this week. But that sucks, especially for a guy was a really productive college player, had injuries in college. We signed him to the practice squad, cut him, brought him back, because of injuries, gets an opportunity to play and immediately get hurt. That's just like getting struck by lightning. I mean, that just sucks. I mean,
yeah.
So I felt bad for him. I thought Raymond played really hard. St. Brown is just so consistent. Like, I think he had one drop, and I was like, oh my God, it's one of those games, like where even St. Brown has a drop. Like, it's just one of those games. And like, yeah, I mean, I heard Campbell after the game say, like, we didn't execute very on point. I think Campbell was. So, it just wasn't their day, and they got smoked. And the nice thing about being 5-1 going into that week was
the worst that comes to worst is you're 5-2.
Exactly. And so, like, even though it was that bad, like, you're 5-2, you're still in control of the division. The Bears won, and the Vikings played tonight, and the Packers lost to Denver. So no one even really made up any ground. And well, I mean, the Bears, but I mean, I don't think we're threatened by the Bears. But like, you just gotta go forward and get ready for the Monday night game against the Raiders. That's it. Not great.
Yeah.
Certainly you're never going to watch this game again for fun.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of second watches on NFL Plus by anybody.
No.
For this particular game. I watched the Rams game as well. I watched it in the condensed version, and their first two passes both went to Cooper Kupp, and he dropped them as well. It was just like, and then they ended up losing, not because of that, but like they also did not have a particularly positive outcome. But since they're in our conference and it's not the Lions, I don't really care. So, In fact, for every team that's not the Lions that makes the playoffs, it makes it just that much harder for the Lions to make the playoffs.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. I thought, I know we usually talk pretty in depth about the game, but there just wasn't anything good to say. And I don't want to just be a Debbie Downer for 50 minutes. So there were no phases in the game in which we didn't get badly outplayed. We got outcoached. In Campbell's press conference, he took ownership that he didn't get the guys ready to play, and basically he's like, the whole game was on me, which leaders fall on their swords. I'm sure some of that is true. I can't imagine all of it is true, but I do appreciate that about him. It was just ugly. I don't know. It was frustrating to watch. I sat there kind of scowling the whole time, going, all right, just waiting for something good to happen. And there weren't too many of those times where I went, oh, well, at least there's that. But burn the tape, move on. Let's do you have anything else to say about the game before we kind of just take a peek at some of the grades? And I only want to do a short peek because they're not particularly good.
I mean, the last thing that I'll say about the game was that is as thorough a beating, as a complete a victory as I think I can remember seeing in professional or college football in my life. I mean, usually there's something like, oh, this team has defended well against the pass, or they've converted well on third down. Nothing. There was nothing. They were the Baltimore Ravens played as well as you could play. It was just nearly perfect.
And we played as
exact opposite
as we could play. Yeah, and that's not a good combination. Grades wise, Decker played well. Sewell had a couple penalties, but outside of that, played well. Glasgow, I believe, is where was he? Fourth out of 80. Like he played really well and has been. I hope we extend him because I think he was just a rental, right? Just a 1-year guy.
Yes.
We need to do that. St. Brown, I felt he played better than his score or his grade, but he played well. Reynolds played well. To your point, Khalif Raymond played okay. To the chat's point, Jamison Williams did not play well. Brock Wright is, I believe, the worst graded tight end in the NFL.
Which I think is weird because last season after they traded Hawk, he graded out real well. But he was he didn't get the same kind of target share that Laporta's getting, but he did see similar snap counts. And I think that he's probably a player that benefits from playing a lot more. Weird to say, right? But I don't think that like spot duty or him in a particular kind of package is maybe the best use of Brock Wright.
Yeah.
Anyways.
On defense, McNeil had another great game. He's actually, I think, 9th in the NFL on Hutch is 8th out of 109 edge rushers. McNeil's 9th out of 122 defensive linemen. Branch is 14th out of 115. Like, some of these guys have been playing pretty good consistently. McNeil, Angeloni had a decent game. Usually you want to be in this kind of color green, and we have only 2 of them. That's how our defense went. Hutch did not have a particularly great game. His tackling was poor. I thought he over pursued quite a bit. Campbell was miserable. Derek Barnes was miserable. Sutton had one of the worst games as a Lion. That's about all I want to. There's not a lot of good in these, so let's kind of skip away from this to just where do we go from here? Like, put that in the past. What are we looking forward to?
Well, as you and I were mentioning, before we went on, like, as it stands today, the Detroit Lions only have one team, the Dallas Cowboys, remaining on their schedule that currently have a winning record. Now, most of the NFL through 7 weeks is 4-3, 3-4. pretty much at parity, right? There's very little separation either way, with the NFL, right, this year for whatever reason. So we're going to go, I think we're at Las Vegas on the next game. And then we have our bye week, which I think is going to be super essential because I think there's players playing that are hurt. Like Kirby Joseph, prior to the hit by Odell Beckham, there's been a number of times I've watched Kirby Joseph, like he'll make a tackle or something, and then he'll writhe around on the ground for like a second or two and get up and go back and play. And like, I can't get past it. Like, I just don't think that he's healthy. I think he's playing through something. And like, even if he was 100% healthy, I don't think that he or Cam Sutton want to tackle. Like, they just look like it's like, okay, there's a linebacker here, or like Tracy Walker's nearby. Get him.
Go, Tracy.
Yeah, like, and like they obviously do tackle, but like I don't know that it's like, so like Brian Branch is a different kind of tackler than those two guys. Brian Branch is like a heat-seeking missile who zeroes in and goes and gets it, right? Like, all I'm really saying is that Cam Sutton and Kirby Joseph are not that style.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many people are more injured than the injury report is saying. Like, I get that feeling from Sam Laporta. Like, I get like Sam Laporta popped up on Wednesday last week with a calf injury, and then it was like, we don't know if he's going to play. We don't know if he's going to play. Okay, he's going to play. We get that the day of,
Right.
And I'm thinking like he, if the bye week was this week, he'd probably be super appreciative, So I just, every team, every player in the NFL is probably hurt at to some degree at this point. And the Lions used to have their bye week super early in the season. So I think that if you can get a win in Las Vegas, Garoppolo will be back for that game. But if you can
go, you're saying we got a shot.
Well, I mean, knowing Jimmy G, I mean, like if someone knocks him down in the first quarter, he may not come back. I mean, but like, but like I would rather play against like Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell or whoever they have on their depth chart. But
yeah,
say you get a win in Las Vegas, and it's in Ford Field. That's better. So let's say that that's great. Thank you, Zakwa. So like, let's say that Las Vegas comes to Detroit and you get a win on Monday Night Football. You go into your bye week at 6-2. You get healthy, and then you can come out of it, and you could be looking to go on a 3 or 4 game run, because I think they go something like Bears, somebody else, Bears, and then it's Green Bay for Thanksgiving. They have a stretch where they have to play 3 games, I believe, in 11 days. Or it's under 2 weeks. So it's something like Thursday night into Sunday into Thursday. Something like that. It's a real short time span.
Yeah, that seems real tight.
I guess we could look it up. I mean, I guess that's possible.
We do have the entirety of human knowledge.
So they go. Yeah, they go Chargers. They go at Chargers, home versus the Bears, Packers at home on Thanksgiving, and the Chargers game is on the 12th of November, and the Thanksgiving day is the 23rd. So in 11 days, they will play 3 games. So
they've got 4 days between the Bears and the Packers.
So I mean,
thankfully they're both home games.
That's probably like a fine amount of time for those 2 teams.
As a hockey fan, I'm like, dude, they play every other night.
Yeah.
just get out there and play.
It's true. But like you get the Bears 2 times in a month. That's kind of, I mean, I would imagine that's a get healthy kind of game, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how I feel against the Chargers. I mean, I think that the Chargers have the ability to beat the Lions, you know, if things are going well. They'll be at home.
They're the only 2-win team, I think, that has a shot to beat the Lions.
Yeah. Although you've said a number of times, like SoFi Stadium is not like a home stadium for the Chargers.
Well, for the Rams, for sure. I don't know if the Chargers have a similar, always feels like away game or not, but
the Rams have been in LA longer than the Chargers have by like 10 years.
No, really?
I think so. Where did the Rams come? They came from St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago. That was more than 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure. Oh. It wasn't 2013.
2016.
Okay. Well, I was wrong.
Okay. So they were in St. Louis from 1995 to 2015. And then in LA from 2016 to present.
19, 20, 21.
So when did the Chargers get there?
They've been there for 7 years. The Chargers moved like 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
I thought so. Or maybe it was COVID. But anyways, they've been there like 5 years longer, right?
Yeah.
So like I imagine that you might have Lions fans either in Los Angeles or travel to Los Angeles. I mean, they're traveling to Florida, traveling to Baltimore. Like, I mean, I was looking at the stands during the game, and there's plenty of Lions jerseys in the stands in Baltimore. You know, like I imagine that they might have a contingent, you know, at the Chargers game or whatever. So we lost our entire chat. They're all gone.
That's right. It's a Monday.
Yeah, it's a Monday. We're a day early. But like I do think that there is an opportunity for the Lions coming out of this debacle to get, well, I mean, seriously, you go Raiders at home, at Chargers, Bears at home, Packers at home, at Saints, at Bears, Broncos at home, at Vikings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you think that one of those teams are going to be favored over the Lions, like say the money line, in the next 8 weeks?
I don't see it.
I think the Lions are favorites in all those games unless something crazy happens, right?
Injuries is going to be the only thing that would have that not be a thing.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I don't want to say that they rip off 8 wins in a row. That just seems ridiculous, but like,
I mean, I think we beat the Raiders. I think we beat the Chargers. I think we beat the Bears. I think we beat the Packers. I think the Saints is going to be a tough game, but I think we can probably beat them, although we are going to be in New Orleans. Say we lose that one because we can't win that many in a row without something weird going on.
Yeah.
And then we play Chicago, which we beat. We play Denver, which I think we beat. Minnesota in Minnesota. Is Minnesota as bad as their record? I don't know. Yeah. That's a question mark game for me. It kind of to see what the next 6 games for them look like. If they're a 3-win team at that point, then they're probably as bad as their record. But like, I only see the Cowboys being the toughest game and the Saints being the second toughest game. There's not a lot of rough ones on the schedule.
Yeah, so I mean that's what there is to be hopeful about. So this was probably the most difficult opponent left on their schedule. I would say that the Ravens are better than the Cowboys. That's my personal feeling, but I like the Ravens. I mean, like I think they're a well put together organization. So that's what there is to be hopeful about, you know, and like if we're right about 3/4 of that, like we're in the playoffs and it's a lock, you know. So like you know.
Trade deadline. That's another thing that we can kind of talk about. Like, what do we do from here? What positions have been exposed as needing help? What options are out there? I think for me, the big one came this week when Aiden Hutchinson was completely ineffective because they could just
fix pressure
him. He did, but they could just key on him.
Yes.
Brian Burns, just go get him, guys. Like,
oh man,
Brad, do your thing. Right? So, like, that's the guy that I would love to see us go for at the trade deadline. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to give you a long answer since we're only 35 minutes in.
Yeah,
trade for Chase. Zako says trade for Chase Young. Okay, I wouldn't cry in my beer if the Lions made a trade for Chase Young. So here's my thoughts. I think we've already seen some player movement. Okay, so like today, Kevin Bayard, the all-pro safety from the Tennessee Titans, was traded for a safety and a 5th and 6th round pick. He's like the PFF graded him out as like the 4th or 5th best safety in the league. So, I mean, like, I think that you're seeing some teams have decided that it's better to start accruing draft capital at this point in the season than it is to keep trying to make a playoff push, win the division, whatever. We're gonna switch gears and go to like player development, asset, acquisition, as opposed to a winning drive, so to speak.
Right.
So the Tennessee Titans could be a seller. The Denver Broncos have been rumored to be a seller. Not like a basement, but like at the trade deadline, they would be willing to sell players, that type of thing.
Right.
Even like the Patriots, who managed to beat the Buffalo Bills inexplicably this week, have been rumored to they might have players up for trade. So there are a couple of guys for me that I think would be a useful addition to this Lions roster. So, number one, if you're trading for somebody, they're probably healthy. They have to pass a physical. They're not currently injured, right? So you're bringing in health, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the best ways to bring, to bring health back onto your team is to trade for a guy. So Zako says Chase Young. I'm pro that move, and like I saw a trade proposal the other day where Chase Young went for 2 3rd-round picks. So I would make that trade in a heartbeat. So Brian Burns would kind of be my unicorn, brass ring, shooting star acquisition. The idea of Brian Burns and Aiden Hutchinson as your defensive ends literally makes me just like happy like a small child.
Yeah.
Chase Young
is the number 2 edge rusher in the NFL right now. Well, he's playing well.
He's really good. So
yeah.
The other move that I think would benefit maybe the most important player on the team in Jared Goff would be to go and get another established wide receiver. So to me, the Raiders have said that they will not take calls on Devontae Adams, which I think would be over the moon.
Right.
But I think Cortland Sutton from the Broncos would be a good addition. He's big, 6'4", 200 pounds. He adds a different dynamic at wide receiver than we currently have on the team. Josh Reynolds is the closest body type to him, and there's only one Josh Reynolds on the team,
Yeah.
I think that would be a solid move. I could see trading for a cornerback, like an established starter who might be like in a contract year or something on a bad team. I don't know who that player is, but getting someone opposite of Cam Sutton and to push Jerry Jeudy and Jerry Jacobs and Will Harris back to the bench, I think would be probably the most impactful move that they could make on this roster.
What about a guy like D Hop or Mike Evans?
So I would trade for DeAndre Hopkins if it was like we were talking about a mid to late round pick at this point, like
4, 5, 6,
5, 6, 5, 6, something like that. That's fine. Okay. I don't want Mike Evans. The only downside I see to Mike Evans is potentially with his contract. I don't know. I can look it up while we're talking and just kind of vamp for a second, but like I don't know what Mike Evans like currently is making. I've got it right now though. He is making $23 million. So if he got traded during the okay, yeah. So if he got traded during the season, it says that the Tampa Bay would eat a $21 million of that and get a cap savings of $2. The way that I interpret that is that we could probably get him a lot cheaper if we took on some of his money. So I think that would be okay, but this is the last year of his deal, and so he's going into free agency. So if you wanted to retain Mike Evans for the future, it's probably going to cost a lot.
Yeah, you need to trade and extend all in the same package.
So you cannot. The idea that you could trade for someone who's good and not give them a lot of money does not happen.
Yeah.
You are either trading for cheap pieces that cost very little, that you're all right with walking out the door, or you're trading for superstars and you're committing to them as part of your team.
Right.
So like Brian Burns, Chase Young, Mike Evans, guys like that, probably even Cortland Sutton. There it is. Those are guys that you would make commitments to. So, and I don't know how the Lions would know if like the Lions brass, like Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, would know what kind of guys they are. So if the Rams season had fallen apart and for some reason they were like, well, we got to let go of Cooper Kupp because we're just going to rebuild or whatever, like then I could see something like that because Holmes used to work in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like you could make a trade with New Orleans because Campbell and Aaron Glenn were both coaches for players on that roster. Like if the Saints wanted to get rid of Cam Jordan or somebody,
Yeah, like, I was just kind of glancing through the PFF grades and whatnot, just found like, all right, who's on a bad team that might be worth going after?
Yeah. So the player to me that makes the most sense for like, is he really in the long-term plans of the current organization, would make an absolute difference for us in particular is Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Do I think that they do it? I would put the odds at about 1%.
You think so?
I mean, Campbell or Holmes has not made in-season trades often.
Yeah.
And when he has, they've not been what I would consider to be like needle-moving deals.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's just because that's not where our team was at the time.
So currently,
I'd be curious to see what he thinks.
So currently, I think that. Okay, so Zakwa says Danielle Hunter.
It's Donnell.
Whatever.
Just spelled like
there's a fucking I in the middle of his name. So, okay, so Hunter, leading the league in sacks, right? The Lions and the Vikings have made multiple trades with one another during the last couple of drafts since Kwesi has been the GM of the Vikings. And
that's how we got JMO, right? Didn't we trade with them to bump up? And then also we traded Pac.
Right, and how they got Lewis Seen, safety extraordinaire, who was a healthy scratch last week. Congrats. So is this trade completely off the board just because they're division rivals? I don't think so.
Right.
But it would be the first time. Well, no, it's the second time they would make a trade in season with one another.
Yeah. Ha.
Right. So I guess Zakwa has hit on something here that really could be a possibility. He's probably way less expensive than Burns. And I don't think there needs to be much on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, like Donnell, is that how you say it?
Donnell, yeah.
Donnell would certainly fit that, criteria as a guy across from Hutch that's like, okay, if you're going to continue to double Aiden, this guy's going to absolutely crush you. I think that he could do that. Hey, what's up, man? That's still on. We're still rooting for that outcome. I think that's still a very real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yee. So
there's a non-zero chance.
Oh, I hate when people say that. Just say that there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance?
No one has ever said there's a chance and meant zero. So it's just a ridiculous. It's just like what nerds say. Nerd.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
That's true. So like a pass rusher or a wide receiver, I think would be the most likely options if the Lions decided to make a move. I don't think they will make a move because I'm starting to get the feeling that like Holmes and Campbell are like, let's not rock the boat too much. Like we want to make good decisions, but not decisions that are going to make Sheila wonder if she has to fire one or both of us. So
I think they've earned a lot of grace especially with this year.
Right. So if you wanted to make the way that they have drafted and rebuilt the team, right now they are sitting in the best cap position they've had in season since they've both been there. The salary cap is supposed to skyrocket next year with the new TV money. So anybody that you trade for, you're going to have more room to sign them. So if you sign them to an extension currently and then backload it, you could keep cap space in the short term and still absorb the larger cap hits in future years. All we need is a right guard, wide receiver, running back, DE, DT, linebacker, CB to make a run. Well, I think we're going to make a run. And I think that certainly there are position groups that Dr. Detroit just named that would help that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I think our wide receiver core is pretty decent. We don't need to make improvements there if we don't want to. Our right guard, Vaitai, he's been solid for us. He needs to stay healthy. We got Graham Glasgow that can fill in. He's filling in really well as a left guard. Like, I don't think we necessarily need to get a guard there. A running back, I'm not sure honestly, the only thing that I agree with is on that list is I could see another defensive, like another edge rusher and another cornerback. We definitely don't need a linebacker. Jesus, we've got like 17 of them.
I think what he's saying is
he's being sarcastic, but right. I'm gonna to Made in Detroit's point about we get pretty finicky about our players.
Sure.
I think that Dr. Detroit's a little funny there. Tee, yeah, that's right. But I could see us doing an edge rusher and a cornerback. I don't see us really needing to make a big splash in any other position.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and depth pieces aren't usually the kind of stuff that you do mid-season. Mid-season is
I don't know that
this is our missing piece.
Oh, I don't know. I think that I would. I mean, we talked last week about I would make a trade for Michael Onwenu from the Patriots just to have him on the roster.
When you look at trade deadline things, it's because you've got a team that says this might be a missing piece that can get us to the Super Bowl, and usually it's not Michael Onwenu or I think I can't pronounce the name, but that's not those pieces, right? It's going to be your Brian Burns, it's going to be your Donnell Hunters, it's going to be your Chase Youngs, Devontae Adams if he's too disgruntled and they're like, yeah, well, maybe we will. That's where you're going to get your needle movers. I just don't think we need too many of them, to be honest. And I don't think there's a ton of them that are available from teams that are also bad that are going to be sellers. You have to have good players on a bad team. Otherwise, you're not selling, and there's nobody that people would want. So you need to be a bad team to sell, and you need to have good players that people want. And it's usually not a ton of those people in that combination. Max Crosby, Burns, Young, Tay, Derrick Henry. I've heard his name being floated. I'm not sure
Yeah,
I would trade for
I
him,
would.
though.
I would be openly opposed to a Derrick Henry trade.
With the people that we've got on our roster, yeah.
So let's see. I would go after Crosby, okay, Burns, Young, Adams, Henry. So like I like all those names but Henry. So now I know why he's recommending him, because Titan season looks to be in the dumps.
Yep.
And we have hurt running backs, but like I don't know how long Montgomery's supposed to be out. Could be a month. But I heard possibly a month. I don't have anything better than that. Gibbs certainly doesn't look effective. Corey Reynolds has had some moments in the Tampa Bay game. Nobody had any moments in the Baltimore game. So there's that. But Craig Reynolds.
I wasn't going to correct you.
I remember.
I will say though, like of all the games for Gibbs to come out and have Montgomery's out, I'm going to get a bunch of snaps. It has to be the game where everybody just plays like fucking dog shit. Right? So that wasn't a good like opening like opportunity for him. So I'm really curious to see how he does against Las Vegas.
I think that he would. My hope is that he plays better against Las Vegas, simply because I don't think that Las Vegas is nearly the caliber of team that the Ravens are. So you play who's in front of you, right? So
Speaking of which, let's do a preview on Las Vegas.
Sure. You have Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams, and that's a pretty potent mix. Max Crosby is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. Got to pay attention to him. Outside of that, I don't know that there's much to worry about. So the one thing that I would do, because there's not an 8-mile-an-hour wind in the dome, was that I guess the wind was going pretty. So we didn't talk about that because I don't want to harp on it. But like, I don't think that a windy game is good for Jared Goff, right? Like,
he does not have a zip.
Jared Goff wants to play in a dome. He wants to play in Tampa, Florida, not windy Baltimore, right? So that's a good point.
Yeah, so like when I complain about Jared Goff's arm strength, it is not because I don't feel he's capable of throwing the ball 55 yards downfield. He can absolutely wind up, put his all into it, chuck it downfield 55 yards, probably with his eyes closed. But like, he's got that kind of strength. My problem with his arm strength is what Dr. D's alluding to, where early in that game, in that first quarter, he couldn't hit our players because he doesn't have the strength to make those. He can't put the ball out there strong enough. And guys like Herbert and Mahomes and Stafford, some of those balls that ended up being short wouldn't have been short because they could have just put it right through the wind. It wouldn't have fucking mattered to those guys. And it does to Goff. So that's where I have issues with his strength. It's not that I don't think he can throw it 45 yards downfield. And he can even do it accurately sometimes. Just not like elite quarterbacks. And it's not going to be on the run. He's got to be planted with time. Like, things have to be good for that to go well for him. So speaking of the 8-mile-an-hour wind causing problems.
Yeah, I don't think he can do either one of the things that you said. So that's fine. Whatever. I've said it 100 times. But as far as Las Vegas is concerned, I would not look past them. But my game plan for Las Vegas would be bracket cover Devonta Adams and have anybody else beat you. And I would rush 4, bracket Devonta, and I would put Sam Laporta or some tight end on whatever side Max Crosby is and chip him and keep him inside the box or whatever and throw the ball to St. Brown.
Yep.
I mean, like,
or Reynolds. God, Reynolds has really impressed me this year.
Yeah. So I'm glad he's on the roster.
I was like, oh, he was sitting on his couch waiting for someone to call him. He was like a cast off, and I was not very high on him. Last year he was okay. This year he's outplayed my expectations.
Yeah. So I don't think that either of these two teams are very dynamic in what they want to do offensively. And I think that the Lions have demonstrated, once again, with the absence of this, yesterday, that they can move the ball up and down the field. Like in the modern NFL, the way, like in the very modern NFL, like where people are in this too high shell and everything wants to be dink and dunk, the Lions are set up to absolutely live like that. So they want the 6-yard pass, 3-yard run, 4-yard pass, first down type of offense.
Yep.
And so like they'll be at home. I think they're the better team. And I think it's a pretty straightforward game plan. Can I take a minute to kind of just say something that I've wanted to say for a long time? Lamar Jackson is fucking great. He is great. He is not a run first quarterback.
Really, really well this year.
He's an excellent thrower of the football. He's first year in this new offense they put in under Todd Monken. And like everybody that was like, oh, I don't want Lamar Jackson, don't trade for him in the offseason, blah, blah, blah. Like Jared Goff is fine. But like they took him out with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And he had destroyed them. Hey, Joey, how you doing, buddy? I have a very high opinion of Lamar Jackson, and Sunday's why. And like I know he won an MVP award in his second year, and it hasn't been that in years 3 and 4. But like we said last week, he was the second highest rated quarterback per PFF after Jared Goff. Now he's going to be above him.
Yeah, Goff dropped down to 5.
And if he maintains this kind of pace, he has to at least be in the MVP conversation this year. So
right now,
it's
Jackson
still really
is number
early.
1. Jackson is number 1 overall graded quarterback at 90.8. Mahomes is 2 at 90.2. And then Tua, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith round out the top 10.
Gotcha. So I think in the future, in the not too distant future, sometime in the season, maybe during the bye week, Mike, I'd like to take a look at quarterback situations and some of the decisions that have been made about quarterbacks and how it affects your roster and like your team's future, because you have a situation like Baltimore had where like Lamar basically held them hostage in the offseason, right?
Yep.
And they ended up signing him to, at the time, the biggest contract in sports. And then since then you had Jalen Hurts get his deal, and then of course Joe Burrow got his deal, right?
Herbert.
And Herbert, him too. So just 3 more players signing the biggest contract in NFL history since his deal this offseason. So like if you look at teams,
what are they going to do with Dak?
Right. Exactly.
Jesus.
They'll have to resign him. So like, but like that's exactly the point of this is like, what do you do with Dak? Because I think the Lions in microcosm are kind of in a similar situation, which is that what is more important to Jared Goff? Is it Jared Goff, the player, or is it Jared Goff inside of Ben Johnson's offensive scheme?
100% it's the second.
So then it's not Jared Goff that you have to worry about keeping, right? It's Ben 100%. Johnson in order to keep your quarterback playing at this level. So if you cannot retain Ben Johnson, shouldn't you then, because if you let's say you sign Goff to a
Don't do
3
it.
year.
Nothing more than 2 years. Nothing more than 2 years.
I mean, like, what do you think they're going to be like? Well, we're only going to give you 2.
I mean, I would.
But let's say let's say it's 2 years. Let's say it's 2 years, $90 million. Okay. And, you're like, Ben Johnson has left. We're bringing in, I don't know, whether you're promoting from the Tanner Engstrand guy that Joey remembered who it was, or you go out and you hire, I don't know, some other young collegiate or quarterbacks coach off some other roster or whatever. And then it's like, okay, now Hendon Hooker, by the time that Jared Goff's extension's up, Hooker's at the end of year 3. You have no idea who he is as far as like an NFL quarterback. You've now spent $45 million on a bridge to where? And
hopefully
you have
Super Bowl.
Well,
Super Bowl or bust.
And then, right, Mark's in chat. So like, and then it's like, okay, here we are. It's 2026. And now we need to go out and find a quarterback that can come in and fit whatever system we want to run. Do you just keep pushing that envelope out, or do you make an aggressive move to either go out and trade for somebody like, let's say, just to pick a name out of a hat, Kyler Murray? Probably not something they would actually do, just to say a name. Do you make a move to move up into the top 5 and take a second, third best quarterback in whatever class? Because the bill is going to come due at some point. Yeah. So the thing is, how much time and money are you going to put towards delaying that bill? Because I think the bill gets, like, much like an actual date is concerned, like if you have appetizers, it might not be that bad. You get the entree, now we're talking some decent money. Yeah. We're going to get drinks and the dessert after this? Jesus Christ, are we doing 50-50 on this, or are you coming back to my place? Like, because at some point, like, that bill is like, okay, like I need to put a 1 or 2 hours more in at work to get back to zero here. So like, you really got to know what your long-term future is. And like, long-term in the NFL now is 5 years. It's not 10 years. The idea that someone's going to play on your roster for 10 years is ridiculous. So I'd like to take a look at that.
Somebody like Mahomes, right? You have to be a generational talent.
Right. Like you have to, I think that in order to do something like the quarterbacks who have gotten paid, and I think that Justin Herbert is probably the exception to this, you have to demonstrate that you are top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Right. And I don't think that anybody is going to argue that Justin Herbert I think that he can play the game as if he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He has none of the accolades.
Yeah.
That a top 5
like Stafford's career, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Never got the wins.
Right. So I mean, like, what if Ben Johnson is his coach next season?
God, that'd be so much fun to watch.
Wouldn't it?
No shit, right?
Wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that I think we should take a look at, because the Lions are going to fall into a situation like one of those situations. Like, and do you want to be all in on somebody like Deshaun Watson? That hasn't worked out great. Like you called that
Wilson.
The worst contract in football history.
He's playing pretty well this year, though.
Great.
They're like his performances, but they're like still 1 win or 2 win. Yeah,
they beat the Packers yesterday, right? But like,
which is great.
At some point, this front office is going to need to commit to a change at that position. Is it Hendon Hooker? That's an option. Is it? Are we serious? Is this legit? Because I will just buy ice cream the minute the
right from the start. We're starting with dessert, babe.
We're going to need hot fudge sundae. You got some kind of piece of cake or whatever. We're all in on the cake.
Yeah. So, I'm going to take you out someplace special. We're going to DQ tonight.
Yeah, we are. Go ahead, baby. It's all about you tonight. So I like that was great.
Yeah. So, you go ahead and get fries with your burger. We're gonna have a blizzard later. Dr. D, thank you for that. That was awesome.
All right. It's funny, but I'd like to look at that at some point where we don't have a ton of other like news around the NFL.
We have a bye week in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I'll start working on that a little bit and come up with 4 or 5. These are moves for quote unquote established quarterbacks. These were moves for rookie quarterbacks, and we can kind of look at them and say, which does it feel like Detroit would be the most similar to? And then what can we learn about that and how not to repeat? Because none of them work out. I mean, like, so few of them work out.
I mean, you can only have one winner, right?
Right.
Only one person can hold the trophy at the end of the year. And the other 31 teams didn't do it right. It's ultimately the way that works.
Before
half of them for the last 2 decades have been Tom Brady, so fuck that guy.
Yes, I love Tom Brady. I agree. So before I go, I wanted to get your opinion about this, and of course, Chad is welcome to chime in as well. I watched an interview with Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, he's a basketball player, a very good one. And a reporter asked him some kind of question like, Giannis, you guys didn't win the title this year. Was this year a failure? And so Giannis didn't take the question very well because he didn't view it that way. And he asked the reporter, hey, Michael Jordan was like in the NBA for like 6 years before he won a single championship. And then when he retired, the Bulls didn't win the championship. Are you saying that all of those years are failures? And his point was, it's a process. You improve, you learn, you fail, you improve again, you fail, you improve, and you put yourself in a position where if you're good or elite and you're healthy and you're lucky, do you get an opportunity to win the title?
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it.
Fuck basketball. I mean, I think there are relevant things that you can extrapolate from that sport that apply to football. But sure, okay, you don't like it, and that's cool. But I think that Detroit's on that staircase, or whatever you want to call it. Get better, improve, fuck up. That was Sunday. Improve again.
Learn from it.
Put yourself in a position to be the best at what you're doing, right? And so Dr. Detroit kind of phrased it up pretty good here. He's like, you have to keep building. That's our podcast, right? That's what we're all about, is trying to how is this team going to keep building? So I think it's time to switch the philosophy. They've done it through the draft. Now it's time to use those picks on established NFL talent because the window's now.
Yep.
And this might, and I hate to say it because I don't want to be, like you said earlier in the podcast, like a Debbie Downer, but is this the window? Is this year the window?
You and I have talked about that, and I think that will make a really interesting topic for maybe our bye week, because I think it is. If Jared Goff is doing as well as he is because he is thriving in Ben Johnson's system with Ben Johnson's schemes and play calling, and he takes a head coaching position next year, which I would say is probably at least 50-50, right? He was well sought after this past year. And if we have success this year, he may just straight be gone. Then what happens? So do you just go all in to try to do it this year while you have a sought-after offensive coordinator, a sought-after defensive coordinator, right? And you've got some of these pieces that just we may next year have a brand new OC, a brand new defensive coordinator, and potentially others, because they're going to bring staff with them wherever they go. May come from our team. You don't know, right? So it may be really interesting to see what happens to our coaching staff next year.
So I think that I have always wanted, and I've always believed that if you keep building and you do it in the right way, you will build a team that will be competitive for a long time. I don't know if that's a reality in the modern NFL. And Mike left. Mike is gone, and it's just my huge face. There he is. What the hell happened, dude?
I had a weird click on the mouse, and it just took me out completely. It was super weird. I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, before you decided to
blink,
jump out of here, is that I used to think that you could build teams that could be good for long periods of time, and that could be competitive for long periods of time. And outside of having an absolute top 3, top 5 quarterback in this league on your roster, I don't think that you can anymore. And that really bothers me. So, like, I think New England is a good example of this. You have one of the all-time greats on your team, whether or not you hate his guts, and they're super competitive, and then he leaves, and then you're immediately not competitive.
Right.
What changed? Coach is there, owner's there, rest of the roster's there. Tom Brady's not there. Well, okay. It seems like this is a pretty easy mystery to solve. So if you're the Lions and you're talking about, the deadline's coming up, and you're like, I don't know, I really want to hang on to these picks or whatever. I'm like,
yeah.
Well,
windows are weird.
Maybe you call Carolina about old Brian.
Yeah.
You know what Cortland's up to in Denver.
Yeah.
Spend some of them that draft capital.
Yeah. Everybody has the same assets available to them. Draft picks, everybody gets the same number. It's how you use them. Salary cap, everybody gets the same ceiling. It's how you use it. You can use those picks to draft. You can use those picks to trade to get established players. There's no wrong way to do it. There's also no for sure. Well, I mean, there is, but there isn't. Like, there's no wrong way to do it, but there's also no, like, for sure guaranteed right way to do it.
Yeah, okay, I'll agree with that.
There's like a mix of shit just falling just right and hitting when you need to hit and missing the least amount. So I think I think that'd be a really good topic for our bye week, since we're not gonna have a game to talk about that week.
Well, all right. Well, I'll start working on it then, since I brought it up.
Other than that, we've got our Discord. The link is right there. I'll make sure the links are in the show notes as well. Welcome to the couple people that we haven't seen before. Made Detroit popped in. We haven't seen Zakewell in a while. So cheers to you guys. Anything else before we bust out of here? Are you going to pop in tomorrow? I'm not. I'm taking my wife to a dinner and a show. But are you going to do anything tomorrow at 7? No?
I'm sorry. I'm sure everyone will be crushed. But when you suggested that we do this tonight because of your commitment to Night Detroit, your commitment tomorrow, I thought, well, we'll just 24 hours of this, ahead of time. So that's fine. So we'll have our first deviation from the Tuesday schedule. So.
Sounds good. Well, then we'll follow up the following Tuesday. So 8 days from now, we'll see you guys at 7:00. Thanks for popping in kind of unannounced at a weird time and day. But anybody that's watching this tape delayed, like, comment, subscribe. That's how we grow and get more people in the chat. And
if we hit 100... Mike and I have decided that we will cast a game live for the viewing pleasure of our 100.
Yeah, God, I hope it's not a game like this one.
Oh, dude, can you imagine?
It would be.
Can you imagine? Probably
I would rather see a blowout the other direction. That would be a fun one to cast. So let's do that. Let's hit 100, and then we'll cast a blowout.
I love blowouts. I think they're great. Yeah. They're so much fun.
I'm sure you must have been pretty happy on Saturday then.
Yeah, for 1,000 reasons, I was happy.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you in about 8 days. Drew, is great talking Lions, and we'll see how things go next Monday.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, see ya.